In this video, I'm going to take ZWO provided data of the Andromeda Galaxy taken with the Seestar S30 Pro and process it in PixInsight. My name is Morten and welcome back to 63 degrees north and Frosth Astrophotography. I don't own any of the Seestar products myself at the moment, but I could see the use of these as an entry-level astrophotography equipment or as a complement to your already existing astrophotography gear in those cases where you want something more portable. I also see the use for features like live stacking, but in those cases where you want to squeeze every little bit of detail out of the data, you really want to go to a more serious processing tool, and that is why I'm going to show you a workflow in PixInsight for data gathered with the Seestar. So let's get started. Welcome to PixInsight and the data taken with Seestar S30 Pro provided from ZWO, originally intended for a contest, a processing contest of the Andromeda Galaxy and the Milky Way. I have a separate video on that, so check that out if you are interested. The contest was in late January, beginning of February 2026. Taking a look at the data, I don't have much more information than what I just said, captured with the Seestar S30 Pro, and I can imagine that it is 268 light frames here, 20 seconds each, giving us an integration time of 90 minutes approximately. I'm going to do a screen stretch here, and I think I will rotate the image here. I want a little bit more of an interesting composition, and I will also do a little bit of cropping. We can see that there are some artifacts around the image here, so I'm going to start with a dynamic crop. I'm going to crop out the edges of the image here and perhaps also crop out a bit on the right, because the galaxy isn't completely centered in the image here. So maybe I will go with something like this in my crop here. There we go. First step completed. Image has been cropped. Now I'm going to do a dynamic background extraction, but I'm going to be using the SETI Astro Automatic DBE script. And I'm using the default settings here, replacing my target image. You could also make a completely new image, but it's easier to just replace that one if you want to minimize the number of windows. We can look at the extracted background if you want, but we have no use for it, so throw that away. We can remove and reapply the STF, and then we get this image here. So the next step here is that we want to image solve this, so we know where we are in space for the upcoming color calibration. We can do that using the script astrometry image solver. I'm not going to bother too much with the details here because it is a linear image and it will go fairly quick, I would say, on my computer. As you can see, it's going through and after 3 iterations found the exact location of this. And then I can open up the spectrophotometric color calibration here to color calibrate this image. I'm going with the average spiral galaxy. I don't really have the sensor, or it's not implemented yet in PixInsight. So we're going for the ideal QE curve here. And then I'm applying this. And now it has gone through the databases and adjusted the color of this image. I can remove and reapply the screen transfer function here to get it looking a bit nicer. Moving on with the linear processing, I'm using Blur Exterminator, running through the default settings on that. Continuing on with the noise exterminator, also on the default settings here. And then I'm moving on to star exterminator, and I really do like to remove stars or separate the nebulosity or galaxy or main object from the stars at this point and stretch them separately. So that's what I will do in this case. Also, we have the stars here and we have the galaxy here. Starting with the stars then, I will remove the stretch. I will stretch it with GHS. I will stretch both with that. You could use Veralux or any other tool like statistical stretch or the MDS if you want to, but I really like generalized hyperbolic stretch. And for my stars here, if you have seen any of my processing, I really like to just bump the local intensity and open up a preview and then simply stretch stars until I like the result here. I don't want to get them too stretched, but you want some stars in this image because it's a galaxy, so you can just play with the slider here until you start to notice too many artifacts or until you get the results that you like. I normally use smaller stars. For this I might go a bit higher than usual. Let's go back and check that. Oh, I think that's fine. Going to apply that. And then if I want to, I can manipulate the stars a little bit here using curves transformation. Let's say we want to add a little bit more saturation to the stars. I can zoom in on an area and choose saturation, for example. Can play a little bit with the slider there to give it a little bit more saturation. I could add some vibrance also, but that will perhaps change the colors a little bit. So being careful with that, I can remove and apply the preview here. I think that's nice. I'm going to rename this as stars and save this image here as stars in the M31 folder. Now I will minimize my stars, put that away, and go back to the galaxy here. Same procedure. I will remove the stretch and I will open up GHS. In this case, I will zoom in on the histogram here and place my symmetry point just to the left of the peak. I will put my local intensity to somewhere around 0.3, 0.4, and I will give it a slight stretch here. And I'm looking for the curve here. I'm not so much interested in what's going on right now. Then I will open up a preview, and then I will execute this stretch a few times until I come to a result here that I like, keeping this a little bit in mind because I don't want to overstretch the core here. So something like that, and then I will reset. Be sure to check the highlighted areas here now and make sure that they're not overstretched. We are at 0.8 around, so that's fine. I will reset the tool now, and I will place my symmetry point about the same place as it was before, and the same with the local intensity, but this time I will enable the protect highlights and a fairly aggressive setting all the way down to here. And then I can adjust my stretch factor to give it a nice stretch, revealing a lot of the details in the image here. I think that's good for a first step. When we're done with that, I'm going to select the linear transformation type here, and I'm going to adjust my black point. And I can do that a couple of times in steps here, just to make sure that I'm not clipping any data or doing anything wrong. So maybe 3 times here. And now the black point has been adjusted down, and now we need to reiterate, making sure here that we don't overblow these areas. So same procedure as last time right now, because we want to extract the really faint areas here. Protect the highlights again. As low as you can go. There is some little data here that we're not seeing quite yet. So please be careful, mindful of that. You can see that we're starting to reveal a lot of nice information and details and data here now. I'm taking it easy. I'm doing this in iterations. Switching to linear again, adjusting the black point a little bit. And maybe one more time. And there's still a lot more to gain, and we haven't overblown the core just yet. So one more time of putting the symmetry point somewhere in the faint areas. You can also click in the actual image if you want to click out here, for example, to really bring out the fainter areas. Protect highlights once more. Maybe not as aggressive now because we have data here that is not really showing right now. So taking it easy, but we want to really get this nice data out. And one more time adjusting down. You can zoom in here and we can observe this. Maybe we're starting to come as close as we can here on this stretching. We could also work with contrasts now if you want to adjust some specific areas here. You want to add more contrast in here, for example. You can send that to symmetry point. You can set a local intensity, and you can have protect both shadows and highlights at the same time, up until the symmetry point, of course. You can adjust this to really see that you increase the contrast of those areas. Now bring it slightly down. When we integrate this, it's going to take care a little bit of the areas here around. So don't be afraid of stretching it a lot, I would say, but be mindful of the core. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to keep it there. So now we want to adjust colors a little bit here. So you can see that it is not very vibrant right now. We want to adjust the colors on this. We could start a little bit with a curves transformation here, and we simply want to increase saturation in the image here and the vibrance in the image, just to bring out the natural colors. Now you can turn on and off to see the difference there. In this version you can see the yellow, more reddish areas, and we have some blue areas here also. I'm not going to iterate each step here forever. I'm just going to show you the basics here. That's why the color calibration part is going to be a bit shorter than it normally takes. This could take a very long time if you wanted to. So we're going to apply that. If I want to make a color mask now to manipulate any color specifically, I could use the color mask mod. This is basically a modified color mask. You can select a single color, for example, red, magenta, green here, but you can also use the start and end hue here. So we can select all of this blue area, for example, all the way into the magenta here. If you want to increase the overall blue, make sure that you have a lightness mask selected here. And then you simply click OK, and then we will have a mask of that hue range. So we can apply this mask to the image. And now I have show mask disabled, and default is this, but you might want to have show mask disabled for that so you can see what you're doing. And we can go into curves transformation now if you want. If we feel like we want to increase some of the blue in that area, for example, then we just select the blue color here, and we can work a little bit with the blues here, boosting the blue in that hue range altogether. But I would recommend being a little bit careful with this, not to overdo it. So you can also play with the saturation a little bit extra there if you want, or the vibrance. It's the same there. We have already adjusted this also, so be careful. You can be looking at before and after here, and then we can apply a little bit of extra blue. I'm going to remove that mask. I'm going to do the same thing here, but if I want to do the same with red, I will start by clicking on red, and then I can extend this out a little bit into the magenta, and also extend it out a little bit into the yellow here. And lightness mask once more. Apply this to the image here. Now keep in mind that this has chosen an extremely wide field, so I would say be careful with adding too much red here, because it will make the entire thing very much more red. So I'm just going to increase this ever so slightly. Like that. Then I will remove that mask and I will do it again, but this time I will select a very narrow red. So I will hopefully just get the absolute smallest red pieces that I might want to have even more red. So putting that mask on, another curves transformation and a preview, and there we have the areas selected that I might want to have some more red on, and I might want to have some more vibrance on those areas. There we go, removing that mask now. Now this can also be done with other tools, selective color correction for example, but I am happy with that for now. Now I'm going to apply some sharpening, and since I don't want to over sharpen this, I'm going to be using multi-scale linear transformation tool here. I'm going to extract the luminance, and I'm going to use the histogram transformation tool on that luminance, and I'm going to decrease the strength here a little bit, just a little bit, to not have the sharpening affect the image at 100%. And then I will apply this as a mask. And then I will run sharpening on this now. So you can see before and after here. You can see that we have achieved some sharpening, but not extreme sharpening. So I'm happy with that for now. I will remove the mask. And now we'll see if we can't reduce the noise a little bit more. So I'm going to run noise exterminator again. Make sure that you have removed any masks before doing this. A little bit better. So we have sharpened the image and we have removed some noise. And in this phase now, it is nice to add a synthetic luminance layer just to add some more sharpening and contrast. And for that, I will extract a luminance out of the original image. When I do a narrowband, I'm usually using the H-alpha channel. But in this case, I'm extracting the luminance. And I will use a range selection here because I don't want to have sharpening and increased contrasts on the edges here. So I'm going to make sure that I only have the areas that I would like. And I also want to make sure that I don't have any highlighted areas in this. So clicking yes to create the mask. So I'm actually applying the range mask here onto my luminance layer. And I will remove, not remove, but disable show mask. Then I will run through some local histogram equalization on this to bring out some details, add sharpening. You can see that when I run this before and after, I'm adding contrasts here. So I have 3 different predefined local histogram equalizations here with different kernel radius settings. You could change them in between, but I found that I usually use these 2 or 3. So I'm moving along this. I've added, and now I'm adding the 3rd here. Sometimes I don't use the 3rd. In this case, I will, I think. And when that is done, I will remove that mask. And then I will run through some extra sharpening, but not so aggressive settings as last time, with 4 layers and much more restrictive parameters here. Also, again, remember to remove the mask before you do this, so we can zoom in and we can see that we have achieved some extra sharpening on that. So now I will put this luminance back on top of this, integrating the sharpened and more detailed luminance layer on top of that. And for that I will be using LRGB combination, but I've only specified luminance here. And that means that luminance will be added to target. So lum here is the name of this. So you have to name it lum, and then just drag the triangle over to your normal image. And then you can see that we have achieved a lot of sharpening. This is after, and we can go back to before. You can see that it's a completely different image here. Before moving forward, we could do some more processing if you would like here. You could adjust the black point a little bit. We will see how it integrates with the stars first, I would say. You could add a slight S-curve if you want to the image now. Something a little bit like that. We could check on the black point of the image here to see where we are, but I would say it's not much to do at this time. So I would say this is starting to be ready to be integrated. Maybe we will check another script that I use sometimes, and that is the dark structure enhance. We can run this and see what it does to the image here. The dark structures were enhanced a lot, I would say. Maybe too much, so I think we can run it, but I think we will have to decrease the amount by half, so 0.2. Yes, I like that. So now I have our starless here, and we'll delete that mask. We have our stars here, and I will break out the old Trustle pixel math. We will join these two together again, and we can inspect the final result here. Well, I'm pretty happy with this. So this is a processing of the Andromeda Galaxy from what I believe to be 90 minutes of data, 20-second exposures with the Seestar S30 Pro. Quickly processed, I would say, in PixInsight with a workflow that works fairly good. You could add processing steps here to add more red into it. You could also add processing steps to the core of the Galaxy here, but this was a quick run through on how you could process your Seestar S30 Pro data on the Andromeda Galaxy, and please make sure that you watch my other video on how to process the Milky Way taken by the S30 Pro as well. If you made it this far in the video, I just want to say thank you for watching. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're not already doing so. Until the next video, I wish you have clear skies.